They told him the machine was broken. He decided to prove them wrong. On a gray morning in late October, in a quiet industrial town just outside Dayton, Ohio, the factory lights flickered on like they had every day for nearly 40 years. The building was old, the kind of place where the walls seemed to remember every shift change, every argument, every laugh, every drop of sweat that had ever fallen onto its concrete floors. It smelled faintly of oil and metal and something else, something human, something stubborn. Ethan Cole stood at the edge of Line 7, staring at a machine everyone else had given up on. It was a hulking press system, half disassembled, its outer casing scratched and worn. A faded sticker on its side read, "Operational Excellence Award, 1998. No one had removed it, even though the machine hadn't run properly in over a decade. It was now just a relic, too expensive to replace, too complicated to fix, too easy to ignore. "Don't waste your time," a voice called from behind him. Ethan turned to see Marcus, a senior technician with 25 years in the plant. Marcus wiped his hands on a rag and gave him a look that was half amusement, half warning. "That thing?" Marcus nodded toward the machine. "Management already tried. Consultants tried. Engineers tried. It's dead." Ethan didn't answer immediately. He just kept looking at the machine, studying it the way someone might study a puzzle no one else cared to solve. "Everything works," Ethan finally said quietly. "Or at least, it used to." Marcus chuckled. "Yeah. And people used to believe the earth was flat too." But Ethan didn't laugh. Because Ethan Cole wasn't supposed to be here at all. 10 years earlier, Ethan had been sitting in a different kind of room, sterile, white, quiet in a way that made your thoughts louder than they should be. A doctor sat across from him, flipping through a chart with the kind of expression that tried to be neutral but failed. "You have a condition called narcolepsy," the doctor said. Ethan blinked. "Like, falling asleep randomly?" The doctor nodded. "Severe cases can involve sudden sleep attacks. Loss of muscle control. Cognitive disruption. It's manageable, but not easy." Ethan was 22 years old at the time. He had just graduated from a technical institute with a degree in mechanical systems. He had plans, big ones. He wanted to design machines, improve systems, maybe even start his own company someday. But narcolepsy didn't care about plans. It showed up uninvited. It interrupted conversations, work, dreams, relationships. It made people misunderstand him. Made them think he was lazy. Unreliable. Strange. Within 3 years, Ethan had lost 2 jobs. But something inside him refused to let go. So he kept coming back. Not during work hours, he had learned his lesson there. Instead, he stayed late. Came in early. Used his breaks. He studied old manuals, some of them so outdated they had yellowed pages and handwritten notes in the margins. He traced wiring systems. He mapped out the machine's logic. He started to see patterns, tiny inconsistencies that no one else had noticed because no one else had looked long enough. And then, one night, something happened. Ethan was halfway through analyzing a pressure calibration sequence when his vision blurred. His body went heavy. The world tilted. He collapsed to the floor. When he woke up, the factory was quiet. The lights were dimmed. And Marcus was standing over him. "Kid," Marcus said softly, "you can't keep doing this." Ethan sat up slowly. "I'm fine." "No, you're not." Ethan rubbed his eyes. "It's just, something I deal with." Marcus studied him for a moment. "You got something going on medically?" Ethan hesitated. Then, for the first time in years, he told the truth. The next day, something unexpected happened. Marcus didn't treat him differently. He didn't pity him. He didn't tell him to quit. Instead, he said something Ethan would never forget. Then you better be smarter than the problem. That sentence changed everything. Ethan stopped trying to outwork his condition. Instead, he started working with it. He broke his analysis into short, focused bursts. He recorded voice notes when he felt alert. He designed a system of reminders, alarms, and checkpoints. He turned his limitation into a structure. And slowly, piece by piece, line 7 began to make sense. 6 months later, Ethan walked into his supervisor's office with a folder. "I think I found it," he said. She looked skeptical. "Found what?" "The core issue with line 7. She sighed. "Ethan. Just hear me out." Reluctantly, she did. He explained the chain of failures, how a small sensor misalignment had created cascading errors over time, how temporary fixes had masked the real issue, how the system's own feedback loop had essentially trapped it in a cycle of dysfunction. It wasn't one big problem. It was 1,000 tiny ones. And he had mapped them all. There was a long silence when he finished. Finally, she said, "If you're wrong." "I know," Ethan replied. They gave him 1 weekend. 2 technicians. And a very clear warning. No disruptions to production on Monday. Ethan barely slept. Not because of his condition, but because of the weight of what he was about to attempt. This wasn't just about a machine anymore. It was about everything he had been told he couldn't do. Sunday night, at 11:47 p.m., Ethan tightened the final bolt. He stepped back. Marcus stood beside him. "You ready?" Marcus asked. Ethan took a deep breath. "No," he said honestly. Then he flipped the switch. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a low hum. A vibration. The system lights flickered, then stabilized. The press engaged. Smoothly. Cleanly. Perfectly. Line 7 was alive. On Monday morning, the factory floor buzzed with disbelief. People gathered. Watched. Whispered. The machine that had been dead for over a decade was running like it had just been installed. Management was stunned. Engineers were confused. Marcus just smiled. A week later, Ethan was called into a meeting. He expected a reprimand. Or maybe a quiet acknowledgement. Instead, he was offered a promotion. Process Optimization Specialist. A role that didn't even exist before. But the real moment, the one that mattered most, came later. Ethan was standing alone by line 7, listening to it run. Marcus walked up beside him. "You proved me wrong," Marcus said. Ethan shook his head. "No." Marcus raised an eyebrow. Ethan looked at the machine, then back at him. "I proved something else right." "What's that?" Ethan smiled faintly. "That broken doesn't mean finished." Years later, Ethan would go on to redesign multiple systems across the company. He would help reduce downtime by millions of dollars. He would speak at industry conferences. He would even start his own consulting firm, helping other companies fix what they thought was unfixable. But he never forgot line 7. And he never forgot the truth it taught him. That sometimes, the biggest obstacles aren't the ones in front of you. They're the ones people place inside you. Because here's the thing no one tells you. Limitations are real. Struggles are real. Doubt is real. But so is the quiet, stubborn decision to try anyway. To look at something everyone else has given up on, whether it's a machine, a dream, or even yourself, and say, "Not yet." And sometimes, that's all it takes to bring something back to life.